Welcome to the Equinety Podcast, where horse owners just like you share their incredible Equinety stories and how Equinety is changing their horses' lives. Whether you're searching for something to give your performance horse better focus, faster recovery, and more stamina, or in the extreme case where all hope seems lost, give your horse what it needs to help heal at a cellular level, you'll find it here. So jump in on today's episode to hear how Equinety is helping horses worldwide. Now, welcome your host, John Dowdy.
Hello and welcome to this week's Equinety Podcast. We're swinging up into New York. We've got Tina Fear on the call this week. Tina, welcome to the Equinety Podcast.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here and share mine and Freya's story today.
Well, and this is a good one. I believe, I can't remember now if I saw you initially post something on Facebook or if you actually reached out to us. But anyways, here we are. You had sent in this testimonial, and it's one of the reasons why I started this podcast over 2 years ago, because my jaw was on the floor and I'm thinking, I can't believe, even after all these years, I still tell myself, I can't believe what I'm just reading here. So tell us about your horse, what was going on and the issues that you were dealing with and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay. Freya will be 7 in February. She's an off-track thoroughbred. Didn't have the heart in it, so they didn't really race her. I think she did maybe 2 races, and she kind of chose me. And I bought her, and I brought her to this one barn, and, I rode her a few times, and, we were just going to work with her to get her to ride Western. And a month, I hadn't been able to get up there in about a month, and they called me, and they said, Freya's limping pretty good. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I don't know really what's wrong. So I went up, and Freya was hardly moving, neck down to the ground, just couldn't move, basically just really bad. So I moved her immediately, and I brought a vet in, and he's a specialist up here, and he took x-rays, and he's like, the coffin bone is gone practically, and she has no front toes. Look at this. Her toes are gone. He said, if she was a older horse, I would recommend putting her down. And I'm like, in tears at this point. And he's like, oh, we can try. And he prescribed $400 or $500 worth of stuff to give her every month. And he goes, but I don't see it improving, but we'll see. And I said, okay. And I got thinking, I can't afford $400 and $500 a month. So I got looking on the internet, and I came across your product. And I'm like, I'm going to take a sample. I'm going to do the 2 weeks. Yeah. So we did the 2 weeks, and I was like, going to do 2 more weeks, see what happens. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's moving better. Her head's up. She's a little, she's looking fantastic. I bought the bigger bottle, and 6 weeks total from the time that I found out she was injured. The vet came in 6 weeks. My horse now is trotting. Her head is up. She's trotting. I can take her out into the pasture. She runs. She comes back in. Now, mind you, she has no toes. And the only thing I'm giving her is your product.
Yeah, the Equinety. So
yes.
At some point in the past, there was some kind of a severe injury. I mean, that's kind of the unknown, but coffin bone's compromised, toes are broke off, super thin soles. And So from the vet's perspective, it was almost going to be one of those situations, here, try a bunch of these meds, and if that doesn't work, we're probably going to just put the horse down, because what else are you supposed to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, holy smokes. Now, so you started giving her the Equinety Horse Excel, which, by the way, for those of you tuning in for the first time, the Equinety Horse Excel is by no means a miracle supplement, but I will say it has done some pretty miraculous things. It's 100% pure amino acids. There's no fillers, no sugars, no starches, and there's no loading dose. And what it's specifically designed to do is give the body what it needs to release its own hormones. And then the body is able to send its own repairing hormones to the problem areas. So in this case, we're dealing with compromised hooves in a lot of different ways, in bone and things like that. So as you had noted, you kind of started off just with the sample, because there's so much stuff on the market, a lot of stuff out there, and so you kind of felt like you were seeing a little bit of improvement within the 2 weeks. So you bought another sample, and then, so now you're 30 days in.
Yep.
And then you had purchased the large tub, which, by the way, the large tub is $100 and it's got 100 servings in it. So can't beat that, especially.
You can't. No.
Especially the way it works.
And
so.
Yeah, to me, it is a miracle product.
Mm-hmm.
She's my heart horse, and I'm so happy she's not in pain and she's walking without limping. So
did you really start noticing a big change within the 30-day mark, or was it closer to the 6-week mark? At what point did you really start noticing significant changes?
Within the 30 days, I could definitely tell there was something great happening. And definitely by the 6th week, when we trotted her around the barn and she was like ready to go. She wanted to go. She didn't want to stop. And she just continued to walk around even after that and not limp. So incredible. You definitely, first 30 days, there was some definitely signs that great things were happening. But by 6 weeks, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah, and I will say that the product begins working within 24 hours. So it's just a matter of how quickly people can begin to see things. I would say through being on the market now going on 7 years, the vast majority of people do see changes in 30 days or less, although there are cases where it takes longer. Sometimes 4, 5, 6 months, depending on what it is. But I would say the vast majority is 30 days or less. So now you're looking at a completely different horse within 6 weeks. What did your vet have to say? Have you spoken with your vet since then?
I did. I talked to him, and he said, how's she doing? And I'm like, I told him, I sent him the video of her trotting, and he goes, I have no words. I don't have no words. What are you giving her? This is like, I thought for sure you were calling to tell me that it was time to put her down. Not that she was trotting around the barn. He's like, I will be interested in taking x-rays of her again. He goes, because I don't know, toes gone, they don't usually run.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that he's a specialist in this kind of stuff.
Yep, legs and hoofs, that's his specialty.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. So that will be interesting when he comes back and we get those new x-rays. That'll be interesting to see. Absolutely. Yep.
That's why I contacted you, because I wanted you to know how amazing your product is. With pictures of her x-rays, and then to see the video of her running is just amazing. Mm-hmm. And it's all because of your product.
Well, I tell you, we are definitely blessed. And, one of the great things about the product and why it helps in so many ways is, again, we're giving the body what it needs to release its own hormones, and therefore the body can send its own hormones to the problem areas. And so it's working at the cellular level, which includes bone, ligaments, tendons, soft tissue, everything. And, for the most part, as I mentioned, it begins working in 24 hours. And we've actually had a lot of feedback with horses that have stress, anxiety, or a bit spooky. We've seen complete demeanor changes in as little as 3 days. And for the working performance horse, faster recovery, more stamina, better focus in about a week to 2 weeks. And then you get into the 30-day mark, and it's all kinds of other things. I mean, it could be softer, shinier coat, even filling out with top line. They're happier. They've got kind of a happiness in their eye, a better glow to their eye. Is that, you've noticed that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of that has to do too, I'm sure, with, when you're in pain, you just don't feel good all around. I mean, even anybody, if you're in pain.
Right.
And so if you can get some of that pain alleviated, then, all kinds of great things start happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is great. Well, if there's anybody that's tuning in here that might be a little bit on the fence, or they might be saying, hey, this sounds a little bit too good to be true, what would you have to say to them to maybe get them to give the product a try?
Definitely try this product. You won't be disappointed. It is amazing. It's done amazing things for my horse, and I don't think that there's a product out there right now that could have done this for Freya. So I would recommend this. Like I said, I would shout your product from the highest mountains. I am that amazed with the product, and it has done so much for my horse.
Yeah, that is so great. And, it's one of the reasons why we have this podcast out there. There's all kinds of stories with different issues that people are dealing with or have been dealing with for, sometimes years. And this ends up more times than not being the missing puzzle piece. And, again, I tell people it's not a miracle supplement, but you hear stories like this and then you have to scratch your head and wonder.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I agree.
Yep. So, but if you're tuning in, you're having an issue, you've been dealing with an issue, just like Tina said, highly encourage you to give the product a try. If you can go for 30 days, I always feel more comfortable with people going 30 days versus the 2 weeks, but more and more people, they report to us, they actually notice a difference within a couple weeks, but I always like to say, hey, try it 30 days at a minimum, but yeah, yep. It's pretty awesome. Well, Tina Fear out of New York, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story here on the Equinety Podcast.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for having a product like that out there in the market. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we'll look forward to, hopefully we can do a follow-up podcast whenever you get those new x-rays done. That would be pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So these are going to be posted on our website at teamequinety.com. And it's also on iTunes and Spotify and several other places as well. But we'll be able to upload the before and after pictures and things at our website. So thanks again, Tina Fear out of New York. Appreciate it. And you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.
That's all for this episode of the Equinety Podcast. For more information on purchasing Equinety, be sure to visit our website at teamequinety.com, where you'll also find product information as well as more testimonials on how others have seen amazing results by implementing Equinety into their horse's supplement regime. We'll have more stories on how Equinety is helping horses worldwide right here on a future episode of the Equinety Podcast.